In the 12th century, Ireland was a land of kings, more than 100 of them. Tribal chieftains, provincial rulers, high kings, all vying for power in a landscape as fragmented as it was beautiful. But one king, seeking to regain a lost throne, made a decision that would echo for centuries. His name was Diarmait mac Murchada, King of Leinster. And by inviting a Norman knight named Strongbow into Ireland and offering him his daughter Aoife in marriage, he opened the gates to an English conquest that would change the island forever. This is the story of the man who struck the deal that invited the English crown to conquer Ireland. Irish society in the 12th century was a mosaic of dynastic kingdoms: Leinster, Munster, Connaught, Ulster, and Meath, each ruled by its own king, while an often contested High King attempted to assert a more unified control. But this authority was precarious, and it shifted with each violent conquest and fragile alliance. Born around 1110, Diarmait mac Murchada never expected to be king. The crown of Leinster came to him only after the death of his father, Enna, in 1126. Almost at once, Diarmait faced rivals in his own house. The chieftains of northern Leinster challenged his rule. These men thought they could bend the young king or break him. In 1141, he struck first. Ruthless, uncompromising, Diarmait crushed their resistance. 17 leaders were seized. Some were killed outright, others blinded so they could never threaten him again. It was an act of terror that sent a clear message. Diarmait mac Murchada would be the only ruler of Leinster, but his sudden rise unsettled the High King of Ireland, Tuadelbach ua Conchober. He feared, and rightly so, that this young ruler might grow into a dangerous rival. To crush him before his power took root, Tuadelbach unleashed an ally, Teiganan ua Ruarc of Breifne. Ua Ruarc swept into Leinster with fire and fury. He spared no quarter, slaughtering herds and burning fields, hoping to starve the province into submission. Diarmait was driven from his throne, but the young king was not finished. In 1132, with the loyalty of the Leinster clans at his back, he struck back and reclaimed his crown. For nearly 2 decades, an uneasy peace followed between the High King and Diarmait, the provincial king. They were allies one moment, enemies the next. In 1152, Diarmait even marched beside Tuadelbach in a raid against none other than Ua Ruarc, who had now turned renegade. But that same year, Diarmait committed an act that would stain his name for centuries. He seized Derbfor Gael, the wife of Ua Ruarc, taking not only her person, but her wealth, her treasures, even her household furniture. And he did it with the help of her own brother, a rival to the throne of Meath. Was it abduction, or was it escape? Some chronicles paint Derbfor Gael as a captive. Others suggest she went willingly, living in comfort at Diarmait's stronghold in Ferns. Whatever the truth, the deed lit a fire of vengeance. For Ua Ruarc, this was no mere insult, it was a blood feud, and it would fuel enmity between the two men that no truce could mend. By the 1160s, Diarmait mac Murchada had ruled Leinster for decades. He was not only feared, but also loathed. His ruthless rise, his feuds, and his infamous abduction of Derbfor Gael had earned him bitter enemies. The fiercest of them remained Teiganan ua Ruarc, the man he had wronged years before. In 1166, the storm broke. Ua Ruarc, with the backing of the new High King, Ruaidrí ua Conchober, descended on Leinster. Diarmait's allies melted away. His kingdom collapsed beneath him. Stripped of power, abandoned, Diarmait fled his homeland. For the first time in his life, the King of Leinster was a beggar in search of aid. His journey took him across the sea to England, into the court of King Henry II. There, Diarmait made a desperate offer: land, loyalty, and the hand of his daughter in marriage, in exchange for soldiers. King Henry allowed his barons to answer the call. Among them was Richard de Clare, known to history as Strongbow. Ambitious, calculating, Strongbow saw in Diarmait's plea not just a mission of aid, but a chance to carve out a kingdom of his own. Richard Strongbow de Clare was a Norman nobleman whose very nickname tells us much about his reputation. The chroniclers called him Strongbow, either because of his military prowess with the longbow, or as a corruption of the Welsh name Straigwyl, the castle he held in South Wales. He was not a wealthy man by Norman standards, but he had lineage. He was the son of Gilbert de Clare, a powerful marcher lord on the Welsh border, and thus grew up in a world where war, raiding, and conquest were part of daily life. By the 1160s, Strongbow's fortunes had declined. He had lost lands, money, and royal favor. King Henry II of England viewed him with suspicion and had stripped him of influence. Strongbow was ambitious but desperate, a dangerous combination. That desperation is what made him listen when Diarmait mac Murchada, the deposed king of Leinster, came to him in 1167 with an offer. Help him reclaim his throne in Ireland, and in return, Strongbow could have Diarmait's daughter, Aoife, as his bride, and eventually inherit Leinster itself. Strongbow took the gamble. In 1169, he led one of the most significant Norman expeditions across the Irish Sea, bringing well-armed knights, archers, and siegecraft to a land still dominated by Irish chieftains and their Gaelic style of warfare. In 1170, the Normans came with their armored knights, disciplined archers, and siege engineers. It was unlike anything Ireland had ever seen. They landed at Wexford and unleashed a storm of steel upon Diarmait's enemies. With their aid, Diarmait clawed back his throne. Leinster was his again. But it was no longer his alone. He had opened the door to foreign conquerors, and they would not leave. True to his bargain, Diarmait gave his daughter Aoife to Strongbow. The union sealed the Normans' claim to Ireland, not as mercenaries, but as lords. The marriage of Aoife mac Murchada and Strongbow was not one of love, but of legacy. On August 25, 1170, in the city of Waterford, Aoife, barely in her teens, was wed to the Norman warlord who had helped reclaim her father's throne. The marriage between Aoife and Strongbow in Waterford was not just a union of man and woman, but a symbolic handover of Gaelic kingship into Norman hands. The union sealed an alliance that would soon unravel the balance of power in Ireland. When Diarmait died just a year later in 1171, Strongbow claimed the kingship of Leinster by right of marriage. The Gaelic order was trembling. Strongbow soon controlled Dublin and vast stretches of Ireland. His success, however, did not go unnoticed. It alarmed King Henry II, who feared that one of his barons was building an independent kingdom across the sea. To contain him, Henry sailed to Ireland in 1171, the first English king to set foot there, forcing Strongbow to submit. In the end, Strongbow became Henry's loyal vassal, ruling Ireland in the king's name until his death in 1176. Strongbow's legacy is mixed. To the Irish annalists, he was a foreign conqueror who opened the door to centuries of English domination. To Norman chroniclers, he was a bold adventurer, seizing opportunity when others hesitated. His marriage to Aoife mac Murchada produced descendants who would shape Anglo-Irish politics for generations. Diarmait sought power and regained it. But in doing so, he opened Ireland's gates to the Normans. From that moment on, Ireland would never again be free of foreign ambition. The king, who would not be broken, broke his own country instead. Diarmait mac Murchada's story is more than the personal triumph and tragedy of a 12th century Irish king. It was the spark that ignited centuries of foreign rule. The alliances he forged out of desperation reshaped the entire cultural and political landscape of Ireland. Diarmait mac Murchada died believing he had saved his kingdom, but in truth, he had opened it to a foreign power that would remain for 800 years. The Gaelic lords would resist for centuries. Rebellions would rise. Blood would flow, but Ireland would never again be entirely free of English influence. As for Aoife, she lived on in the shadow of conquest. Mother of the Normans in Ireland, remembered in poetry and painting, a symbol of both fate and surrender. Diarmait mac Murchada is remembered with mixed judgment. To some, he was a traitor who sold out Ireland for personal gain. To others, a pragmatic ruler who made the only move left to him. History does not always judge kindly, and it does not forget. The Anglo-Norman presence in Ireland, which began in earnest with Diarmait mac Murchada's invitation to the Normans in the 12th century, set the stage for a profound and lasting transformation in Irish society, politics, culture, and language. Over the centuries, the Norman invasion would change the trajectory of Irish history, leaving legacies that would shape the island for generations and eventually play a role in the formation of modern Irish identity.